Hello and welcome to another Time Travel Fiction Tuesday with me, the author Michael Campling, in which I am reading my Darkening Stone novel, A Tale of Ancient Secrets and Time Travel, Trespass, which is the first of the Darkening Stone trilogy. If you stumble onto this episode 10, you might want to go back and find episode 1. Now, a good place to find episode 1 is always, at the moment anyway, michaelcampling.com, which is a site hosted on Substack, and each reading goes in a post on there, and each post has a link to the first one. So that's a good way to do it. If you are listening to the audio of this wherever you get your podcasts, well, thank you very much for a start, and it's easy usually on a podcast app to find the first episode. So yeah, available wherever you get podcasts. YouTube is also good, where you can either listen to the podcast, just the audio, or you can watch the videos of me reading, and the videos go onto Substack, and I don't know, that's it really for the videos. And the Substack is called michaelcampling.com. Really appreciate people joining me. If you'd like a shout out in the show, yesterday I had a couple of people commenting and things, and so I gave them a shout out. Please do, just commenting. Good places are on the Substack, which again is michaelcampling.com, or you can do it on YouTube. Either way, I will see those. Sharing is lovely, so if you want to find an episode of something and share it on Facebook or wherever, that's great. Tell your friends, tell your great Aunt Marge or whatever. Trespass, read by the author Michael Campling. Chapter 24, 3500 BCE. Tellen risked a sideways look at Burlick as they slipped through the lengthening shadows. He took in the crazed glint in Burlick's eyes, the fierce curl of his lip. I don't like this, he thought. I don't know if I can stop him, change his mind. They were close to Wickham now, a stone's throw from where the old man was squatting by his hut, mumbling to himself. Burlick pointed to the trunk of a fallen tree, and together the two men crept toward it and crouched down. Slowly they raised their heads, just enough to see what the old man was up to. As they watched, Wickham raised his voice and called for his long-dead father. Burlick and Tellen exchanged a meaningful look, then turned quickly back to Wickham as the old man cried out in pain and despair. Wickham clutched at his chest and moaned, then simply sat with his head in his hands and rocked back and forth. Burlick tapped Tellen on the shoulder, then pointed to himself and indicated a patch of thorn bushes near to Wickham's hut. He wanted to get closer. Tellen shook his head vigorously, but Burlick repeated his gesture. He was going to move closer. He shifted his position, ready to make a dash for it. Tellen grabbed Burlick's arm. Burlick turned on him, pushed his arm away. The sudden movement startled a bird in the trees behind them. Its loud scolding made both men duck for cover, and they glared at each other. Tellen was the first to look away. He needed to check that Wickham had not been alerted. Slowly he raised his head to peer over the tree trunk, but Wickham was not there. For a heartbeat, Tellen panicked, but then he saw the old man walking away toward the rock face. For an old man, he was moving rapidly, his back already disappearing into the gloom. Burlick had seen him too. He jumped to his feet. Quickly, he whispered, or we'll lose him. But Tellen laid a hand on his arm, gently this time. It's all right, Burlick, he said. I know where he's going. Burlick hesitated. Tellen sounded very sure of himself. All right, he said, but I won't wait for long. It will soon be dark. They waited, both men casting fleeting looks into the deepening shadows. It wasn't long before Tellen muttered, Let's go. He led the way toward the rock face. As they approached, they could make out Wickham high above them and climbing steadily. Tellen enjoyed the look of bewildered surprise on Burlick's face. In moments, Wickham had climbed out of sight. He really does have a secret hiding place, Burlick thought. Tellen was speaking the truth. He looked at Tellen. Perhaps he could trust him after all. The two men strode quickly to the rock face and pressed themselves against it. Wickham could only see them now if he leaned out over the edge and looked directly down. Look, Tellen whispered. He parted the undergrowth. and showed Burlick the steps. Burlick ran his hands over a step, felt for the one above it. He grunted. "It isn't natural," he said. "No," Tellen said, "but I can climb it. You stay here and keep watch. I'll go and see what Wiccan's doing." Tellen stepped forward, but Burlick placed a hand on his chest. "No, you won't," he said. "Our plan was that I should be the one to climb up." "But that was when Wiccan wasn't up there." "Enough," Burlick snapped. "All day long you've made me wait. It's always been too near, too open, too dangerous. You might be afraid of Wiccan, but I am not." Tellen was taken aback. "But Burlick—" "No," Burlick interrupted. "I've waited long enough. I will climb to Wiccan's hiding place. I will see his wickedness with my own eyes, and I will stop him once and for all." He gave Tellen a shove in the chest that sent him sprawling backward. "And you will stay here. Just try to stand up," he thought, "and see how far you get." But Tellen stayed down. "It's all gone wrong," he thought. "What do I do? What do I say?" Burlick smiled. "I've beaten him now," he thought. "I can see it in his eyes." He turned to the steps and began to climb. For a moment, Tellen watched. Then he hung his head and sighed. It was too late. Chapter 25, 3500 BC. Wiccan often saw wondrous things while kneeling at the darkening stone. Every day, in the chill, damp, pre-dawn air, he ignored the pain in his knees and his back and concentrated fiercely on the bright lines of colour trapped within the deep black stone. Each day he went into a trance, forgot the pit, forgot his father, forgot his loneliness and his pain. He was frail from too many years with not enough food and too much hard work. He couldn't keep his body steady for long, and as he wavered gently to and fro, it seemed that the lights danced and spun, twirling into dizzying patterns, shifting into shapes, people, animals, strange creatures. Sometimes his tired eyelids drifted down, and then the visions were glorious. There was no one to watch, no one to shake him awake. This was his daily routine, his life. But now his routine was turned upside down. Now it wasn't the dawn, but dusk as Wiccan climbed the stairway. Now, instead of knowing peace, his mind burned with unanswered questions. "The shades will show me what to do," he muttered. "My father will send me a sign." The words gave him strength, drove him onwards, upwards. He must reach the top. "Not much farther," he said. The blood rushed, hissed in his ears, mingled with his father's voice. "Don't stop now," it whispered. "If you stop, you'll give up. Don't fail me. Don't stop now." Wiccan dare not pause to catch his breath. He climbed on, forcing himself upwards, ignoring the pain in his legs, his back. But there was a price, each step steeper than the last, each breath a battle. Sweat ran from his wrinkled brow, but he didn't have time to wipe it away. His legs ached as though they'd been torn apart. He'd worked hard all day, and then, as he'd waited by his hut, he'd been so anxious he hadn't had anything to eat or drink. Wiccan shook his head. The ground shifted, swayed beneath his feet. He fought for balance, took another step. He couldn't see properly. The world blurred, lost its colour. Stumbling, he climbed onto the next step. His chest tightened. He gasped, fought for breath. He must not stop. Only 2 more steps to go. His arms tingled. His chest burned. He clenched his teeth, pushed himself upwards. Only 1 step remained. He gasped, panted. It didn't help. The breath was being crushed from his body. He moaned. "The shades have caught you," his father hissed. "They are afraid of what you're going to do, but keep climbing. You're almost there." "Let me get to the darkening stone," Wiccan gasped, "and you can take me. I don't care. I will stay with you forever. But now I will pass." And with that final spark of grim determination, he hauled himself onto the ledge. His legs buckled and he sat down heavily. His head hung forward on his chest, his breath rasping. If he'd been able to, he would have wailed in despair. Why? Why had he not rested? Why had he been so stupid? He braced himself to stand, but his legs shook and crumpled beneath him. His feet slipped, and he fell, slumped sideways onto the ground. He couldn't move. Pain surged through his body and fogged his mind. This is it, he thought bitterly. I'm going to die here. So near to the darkening stone, but not close enough. Father, he wheezed, I have failed. And a single tear rolled down his wrinkled cheek. Chapter 26, 2010. A flash of light floods over me, intense, painfully white, and is gone. The after-image, red and green, fades away. The darkness is complete. I'm cold. Ice water trickles over my skin, pours over my head, runs into my eyes, my nose, my mouth. Something grabs at me, pulls me down, holds me under. Pain twists deep inside me. Fear squirms in my gut. No, please. And then I see him. The old man stares down at me, looks me in the eye. I've never seen anyone so sad. He raises his hands towards me. I can't look away, can't move. I can't even open my mouth to let out the scream that's threatening to burst my lungs. My head swims, my stomach turns. I taste acid at the back of my throat. I can't swallow, can't spit. If I throw up, I'll choke and I'll die. This can't be happening, can't be real. Everything blurs, shifts. I can't see. I think I'm blacking out. But I can hear something. I know that sound. It's my phone ringing. I opened my eyes, sat up, and pushed myself off the stone in one instinctive movement. Oh my God, I said, oh my God. I was shaking. I turned, scanned the whole of the ledge, stared back at the stone platform. No one there. No strange old man. No one. I put my face in my hands, rubbed my temples, my eyes. My head buzzed and my eyes ached. I spat on the ground to get the taste of vomit out of my mouth. I tried to take a deep breath, but my chest was too tight, too shaky. What? I gasped. What the hell's wrong with me? I'm tired, I thought, stressed out, hungry, dehydrated. I shook my head. No, it was real. I shuddered. It was real, and I'd seen it. I'd seen the old man so clearly I could have sat down and drawn a picture of his wrinkled face, his tatty beard. But the worst thing was the way he'd looked at me, stared at me, sad, needy, almost hungry. Where the hell had he come from? And where did he go? I looked around, checking every shadow, every hiding place. I don't care what's going on, I thought. I've just got to get out of here. My hand went to my pocket for my phone. Oh no, I muttered. I've lost the bloody thing. But I'd heard it, and it was loud, close. If it's near, maybe I can find it, I thought. Then I can go home. I wiped my hand over my face. Yeah, home sounded good. I'd go back the way I came, and I'd get over that fence somehow, and if I couldn't, I'd knock the damn thing down. So where had the ringing come from? I chewed my lip, looked up to the slope above me. I didn't know. The sound had echoed, reverberated around the quarry. I walked to the edge of the ledge and peered over. And that's when I heard it. Message, message, message. Louder and louder, rising to a scream. Message! I smiled. Of course, I hadn't answered, so it had gone to voicemail. And here was my amusing message tone, the one my mum hated so much. It was definitely coming from below the ledge, and that was great. I'd had my phone in the car because I'd taken a photo. I'd dropped it when I'd heard Callie, but I'd picked it up and that was it. I'd been distracted and I hadn't put it in my pocket properly. It would be somewhere between the bottom of the steps and the car. Well, that was easy, I said. Makes a nice change. I took one last look at the black stone platform and lowered myself over the edge and onto the steps. I was going home. Just having a quick scan. The next one's really quite short, so hang it, I'm going to go on. I wonder if you remember that message tone that people had that used to just say message and it got louder and louder until somebody was screaming. Anyway, it's a silly, that's back in the day when people thought various ringtones were humorous. Chapter 27, 3500 BC. Slowly Wiccan raised his head. Where am I? Of course, he'd reached the top. He was on the ledge. The vicious grip on his chest relaxed a little. He could breathe. After a few moments, he could stand. He pushed himself shakily to his feet. I'm all right, he thought. I have survived. He looked toward the darkening stone. The shade still had a purpose for him. He had a task to perform. But did he have the strength? Wiccan looked to the sky. It would soon be dark. He must try. He staggered across the ledge toward the darkening stone. His feet found the familiar kneeling place worn smooth through use. He must prepare himself, but before he was ready, it began. A cool breeze blowing into his body, flecks of light flit within the darkening stone, dart across its surface. And beyond the lights there is darkness beyond depth, dizzying, a bottomless pit, an endless void. A brittle crackling like dry wigs snapping, an acrid smell catches at the back of his throat, a bitter taste in his mouth. And there it is. Wiccan's heart stutters, his breath is caught in his chest. A form, a shade, sitting upon the darkening stone, a perfect image of pure, pale blue light. It has the shape of a boy. No, wait, a young man. Even in his most wonderful visions, Wiccan has seen nothing so clear, so real. He stifles a sob. It is almost too much to bear. What message does it bring? As if sensing the question, the shade turns, looks directly at Wiccan. He meets Wiccan's eye, and there is a connection between them. Wiccan feels as though his heart will burst. He reaches forward, willing the shade to take his hand, to prove this is really happening. But the shade does not move. Wiccan opens his mouth, but can't find the right words. And then, cruelly, the shade is gone. The lights are snuffed out. They leave no trace. The darkening stone is solid rock once more. Wiccan held his hands to his cheeks. I've never, he whispered, never seen anything like it, anything so. It was... And he looked me in the eye. The shades had answered his call. They had sent one of their own, and their messenger had appeared as a young man. It could only mean one thing. This is the sign my father mentioned, he said. I am to have an apprentice after all. Wiccan smiled. He looked up to the sky. His work would be continued. His legacy would not be forgotten. Wiccan's mind reeled. Great things are about to happen, he thought. I'm sure of it. But when? The shade will come back, he whispered. Yes, and then he'll tell me what to do. He rubbed his hands together. It could happen at any moment. And when it did, he must be ready. He must begin at once. He shuffled to the back of the ledge. Even in the failing light, he found them quickly. His fingers were used to the small, low niche in the rock where his most treasured possessions were hidden, wrapped in deerskin. He moved to the darkening stone and knelt down to unroll the deerskin on the ground. Carefully he laid out the sacred instruments his father had given him, the sharp splitting blade, the heavy striker. Now he touched each one in turn, gently lining them up. Yes, he said, yes, each is in its place. And he waited, focusing on the darkening stone, watching for the first flickering of light. But something was disturbing his concentration. What was it? There, a rustling of leaves, and again, It was too regular to be the wind. "Wiccan," his father called softly, "there is someone coming, an outsider. He's climbing up the stairway." "Yes, father," Wiccan sighed, "I know." His eyes did not move from the darkening stone, but there was no doubt. Wiccan had climbed the stairway so often he was all too familiar with the whisper of leaves that accompanied every step. "Remember my words, Wiccan. You must protect our secrets, whatever the cost." Wiccan nodded grimly. He must not allow himself to be distracted from his task. He gritted his teeth. "Father," he hissed, "there is still time. If the shade comes now, all will be well." "How can you say that?" Clearfan demanded. "We cannot allow an outsider to see the darkening stone. It's unthinkable." "But the shades will show me what to do." "No, Wiccan. I will tell you what to do. I am your father." The intruder was closer now. Wiccan could hear his stifled grunts, but still Wiccan did not look away from the darkening stone. "Wiccan," Clearfan commanded, "go now to the top of the stairway. Take the sacred instruments. Strike him as he reaches the ledge. Send him to his death." Wiccan reached out toward the instruments, then hesitated. They were precious. A gift from the shades, meant only for a special purpose. They were not weapons. He wrung his hands. "Father," he said, "how can you say such a thing?" "Do as I have told you." Was his father right? Wiccan touched the instruments, wrapped his hands around the heavy striker. He could hear the intruder's heavy breathing. He was almost at the ledge. He picked up the striker, struggled to his feet. "Father," he moaned, "I have never—" "Now," Clearfan growled, "before it's too late." Wiccan took an unsteady step toward the top of the stairway. The sounds from the stairway grew louder. The intruder was almost at the top. Wiccan raised the striker to shoulder height. The intruder was climbing quickly now, rushing toward him, breathing hard with the effort. Wiccan ground his teeth together. He gripped the striker as tightly as he could. It was heavy. It could crush stone. Wiccan closed his eyes. What would it do to a man's skull? It was no use. He lowered the striker to his side. I cannot do as you ask," he said. He hung his head. His father roared in anger, but Wiccan hardly heard it, hardly cared. The pain had returned to his chest, and this time it was worse. The ache grew inside him. It was like a living thing, a presence. He could almost touch it. It consumed him, crushed him, tore at his chest, twisted his face into a grimace. He let the striker fall to the ground and beat his clenched fists against his chest. He could bear no more. Without hearing, without knowing, Wiccan cried out in agony. His body crumbled. He fell, twisting awkwardly, landing hard on the cold ground. And then he lay still. Oh, and I must stop there, even though it's an exciting bit, because you've been patient for so long. I didn't make too many mistakes. There's one kind of mistake in it, but hey, not too bad. I managed to keep going. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got the now it sort of starts to get going now. Lots and lots of short chapters, and they do interact, and you get hints of the interactions between the different plot lines. Even within the 3500 BC, we have Burlick and Talon, and then we have Wiccan, and as he believes, calling to the shade of his father, and his father talks to him, the spirit of his father, the shade as he calls it. Just a little bit of background there. There is a hint there that Wiccan's visions up until that point have been mainly the result of his superstitious belief in the stone. He believes so solidly in what it does and what it can do that he sees things, but I'm hinting that as an older man, who's half starved all the time and works over hard all the time, he basically imagines most of the things, and which is why the vision that he sees of the boy we know is Jake from the more contemporary type timeline, or the more modern, let's say modern day, because it was modern day when I wrote it. It's not so modern now. Is actually something happening, and so there we have a connection of showing the power of the portal that is the Darkening Stone, that Jake sat on it in the earlier chapter, if you can remember from last week, and engaged in certain thoughts. And something happened. The mysterious power was unlocked, with both of them needing something to happen at that point, at that place. They're obviously at the same place. I hope you've twigged that. They are obviously in the same place. Almost all the action in this book occurs within the pit of Scadderston, as it is known in modern day, which comes from the Old English Scaddestan, which is the shadow stone it meant, or darkening stone, as Wiccan calls it. Of course, we don't know that Wiccan spoke Old English, but that was as close as I could get, and I had to base on something, so I use Old English. So Wiccan and Clea Fan Burlick Tellen, all their names come from Old English Skimrian, Biccan's wife, and Burlick's wife, and so on. I've forgotten what his mother was called. Anyway, it's all in there, all based on Old English, because that was a system I could use rather than make up my own one. I'm not Tolkien. I didn't want to invent a language. So I based those parts on Old English. Phew. So lots to think about there, lots to get into, lots to get excited about for next time. Will Wiccan survive? Will what will Burlick do when he climbs onto the ledge? What will Jake do? Will he get down again? What will he do with this strange vision that he's had? And the interesting thing, that from my point of view in writing it, what I wanted to convey was this thing that he was looking to the past, but which is one thing, but how would it be if someone in the past looks back at you and you recognize each other and you understand that you are looking at each other? Then that's a very strange thing. That's going beyond a vision. That's kind of a communication across thousands of years. So I hope that's kind of an intriguing idea to you. That was kind of the intriguing idea that sparked the whole book, really. Sparked the whole book. I thought, what would it be like if you sort of encountered a rift in time? And that would be amazing and strange and really probably very disturbing. Unlike Doctor Who, where sort of people get out and say, oh, yes, we're in Shakespearean times. I think it would actually be it'd be enough to freak anybody out. I remember reading way back, and this is more background, so I'm sorry if I'm going on too long, about, I think it was a documentary or a drama actually about Darwin and his early experience. And he wrote about what it was like to experience an earthquake and about how kind of mortifying it was to somebody from this country where we don't really have noticeable earthquakes to have the solid earth moving beneath his feet. I thought, how much more mortifying to have time ripped away from you, to have that rug pulled from under you, to think the universe isn't what I thought it was. It's something else. It's like, going through the Matrix, that kind of thing. But this was written way before then. Yeah. So, kind of a devastating thing to have time challenged for you. So you don't leap through, you don't sort of communicate across time and think, okay, that was fun. You kind of distressed by it and makes you question what's going on. Certainly Jake doesn't know what's going on. All he really knows is he's a bit freaked out, and he really needs to get out of there, but he's got to get his phone back, because in those days, having a state-of-the-art mobile phone was really a big deal, and he really has to get it back. So, he wasn't, no such thing as a burner phone then, I don't think. Maybe there was, but not if you bought a good one. Then it was something that you would, cost an arm and a leg. So, thank you so much for bearing with me. Sorry if that's too much waffle at the end. Sometimes people really like the background. And that was a significant bit. Oh, one more tiny thing. You may have noticed in the book, the parts that happen during the experiences when someone is interacting with the stone, it's in a bold font, and it changes tense. It is written in the present tense. That is why I switched tenses. And I tried to leave a little gap and tried to express it differently to make it sound kind of bold type. But you could hear that it's in the present tense. That wasn't a mistake. That was deliberate. I did that on purpose. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Does it work? In a sense, there is no tense to what happens on the Darkening Stone, because it is through time. So, I wasn't trying to be too pretentious and literary artsy-fartsy. I think I was trying to sort of show that this is a difference different state when those things happen. So that happens throughout the 3 books. Thank you very much for listening, watching. If you share it, huge thank you to you. If you do share it, let me know. I'll give you a shout out. Liking things, commenting, subscribing is wonderful. You can subscribe to the Substack, which is on michaelcampling.com. You can subscribe to each section separately so that you don't get like 4 emails a week. So you can set your preferences when you get an email, and you can, if you don't want Mystery Fiction Monday, you can like click that little toggle off and you won't get those emails. Similarly to Thriller Fiction Thursday and Science Fiction Friday, which is a sci-fi comedy. If you just like everything, you can leave them all on, and then you'll get 4 emails. You can subscribe in your podcast app. I guess you can review things in the podcast app. So thank you if you do that. I don't chase around all the different platforms looking. I don't have time or bandwidth for that. But comments on YouTube will definitely find me, and also comments on the Substack, which is michaelcampling.com, he said for the 60 millionth time. So look after yourselves, take care, and don't fall through any rifts in time if you can possibly help it. And I'll talk to you soon, unless I accidentally sit on a slab of mysterious black stone and kind of stuff happens. Bye for now. Bye.